But we do have a very special guest. She's sitting right beside me, a lovely looking lady too, I might add. And I'd like you to please introduce to us.
Steve, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you today a very special lady who came out particularly for the play Propelled last night.
Yes.
Her name is Pat Furlong. She's the president and CEO of an organisation that looks after Duchenne. It's the parent project for muscular dystrophy. Pat, welcome to the wonderful paradise.
I think I'll take paradise over that.
Oh, yeah, because you're really copying it over there. Copying is a word that we use in Australia. You have to get used to our slang, of course, our jargon that we use. But, I mean, it's been a really severe winter in America, hasn't it?
It has been awful, actually. We use the word copying as well, but it's a frame of reference. But, yes, it's been really awful. They're calling it a polar vortex because, you know, we have to have sort of fancy names for things that mean you're under the weather and at 10 degrees below.
Steven Spielberg would love it because there's something else for another movie.
Soon, so what
That's right.
That's right. Well, I'll let you know if we make a film of that, but
well, we're not here to talk about films. You know, Dales, please tell us about
as you know, Operation Rudolph is run this year, and we're partnering with the Duchenne Foundation this year. And Pat has been an amazing lady. Pat, what was your involvement with Duchenne?
So 30 years ago, in 1984, my two sons were diagnosed with Duchenne. So this came out of the blue because I have no family history, and it is a genetic disease, but it happens spontaneously in families. So at a certain moment in June of 1984, two boys were diagnosed with Duchenne and predicted that they would lose all function and then die before they were 20.
That must have been just a horrifying news to hear.
It's hard to get your head wrapped around that.
Oh, yeah.
You look at a child that looks relatively normal, is walking, and you learn that with this X-linked genetic disease that they're missing the shock absorber in muscle, and when that shock absorber, because it's absent, that their muscles are not going to survive. So they're going to try to turn over as they grow, but ultimately they'll run out of steam and they'll stop moving. So my sons were off their feet at 8 years old, and they died at 15 and 17.
Oh, goodness. That's just dreadful.
Well, you know, Steve and I had this discussion before about how do you pronounce Duchenne. And the one thing I want to pronounce is that Duchenne is an insidious, horrible disease that can strike any boy, anywhere at any time, and it should be stamped out. And it's, in America, it's certainly well known, but in Australia, the number of people I've spoken to, even in my real job during the week, they have no idea what Duchenne is. And trying to publicise it is very, very hard, isn't it?
It is very hard. So Duchenne is the most common pediatric neuromuscular disease diagnosed in childhood. So in that it's common. About 250,000 children around the world have Duchenne muscular dystrophy, primarily boys, because it's X-linked. So that means it's associated with the sex of the child. So, but it is under that umbrella of muscular dystrophy, which we all hear about, but I think we don't hear that Duchenne is the predominant form of muscular dystrophy, and we don't hear much about specific types. So Duchenne is catastrophic and certainly very heartbreaking.
Is there any signs that, you know, tell signs of the child having Duchenne, you know, like early warning signs at all?
So early warning signs would include weakness in the child, and you really have to kind of be aware of what weakness looks like because we don't think about muscle.
Well, we don't, no.
Right? So if you had a little child, you might notice as you pull the baby's two hands that they would have head lag. That means their head doesn't automatically curl under as you pull them up to the position. And these boys can't do stairs, so they would really struggle on stairs. They can't jump, they can't run. So you might hear things like they're lazy or this is a quiet child. But so those are the subtle signs that you want to pick up.
Yeah, just amazing.
Now, I should point out that, Pat, you did lose two of your sons, which would be heartbreaking. To add to this, you're acknowledged worldwide, so my research shows me, as a person who's added up to 10 years of life to the average Duchenne boy's life. How did you go about doing that? Why are you known as that?
Well, so my story is kind of one that's still a little bit difficult to speak to with my husband, only that when my sons were diagnosed with Duchenne in '84, I went to the bank and borrowed $100,000 on his signature. Now that came as a surprise that evening, and he asked me, you know, first of all he asked me to give it back, and I said no, and that resulted in a bit of discussion. And then I said I'm going to run around the world and try to understand what I could do, what the landscape looks like, who's investing, what the federal government is doing. And so as I did that, I began to think about a business plan to approach this. And so PPMD, or Parent Project Muscular Dystrophy, then looks at things about investment and research, but also looks at care and understands what are the tools available that are used in other diseases that we could apply here. And then we were instrumental in hiring lobbyists. These are individuals who help sway the federal government to do specific things in Washington, D.C. Mm-hmm. So we hired a lobbyist, and then were able to write a bill called the Muscular Dystrophy Care Act. And that that legislation was passed and signed into law in 2001 and generated $500 million into this research. So I think that the events of starting an organization, working with others, and developing and writing law and hiring lobbyists and getting that sizable investment really changed the physicians' willingness to try to intervene with known tools. And that's what resulted in 10 years of more additional life.
It's interesting that, Steve, you asked before, what are the early warning signs? Can I mention your background, Pat, you and your husband? Pat is actually a registered nurse, and her husband is a family physician who specialises in families. Now, if somebody with those medical backgrounds couldn't recognise the onset of Duchenne, what hope is the average person in the street?
Well, this is the reason I asked whether there were any early warning signs, because I'm a father of two little boys and one elderly boy, and it just scares the hell out of me if anything like this. I mean, but it's good that I'm armed with some sort of knowledge now. I know that there's something out there. Touch wood and pray to God that that's not going to happen to my boys, of course. But it's very alarming, and it's very sad too. And
it is. And I think when you have a number of children, I mean, if this was your first child and that child was weak, you don't know what a child is supposed to be doing, right? So you don't really look at you're just enamored with this beautiful child, and you hold them in your arms, and
just going through the gangling periods and the ways,
Right, and then I think, at least in our case, we had 4 little ones. So I was concerned that they were quiet children. And as a parent, you could say to yourself, well, I'm the best mother in the world, right? And I have good, quiet, well-mannered children, or maybe not, right? And I think that's the question that we fought with all of the time. And maybe in our medical careers, it was, you don't want to really look at and nail down what you're seeing, because it's a heartbreaking diagnosis. And in 1984, there was nothing to do, not anything to do. So the predicted outcome would be that they would go off their feet and they would die before 20 was going to happen.
Very briefly, the typical stages of a Duchenne boy?
So the typical stages of a Duchenne boy is diagnosis between 4 and 6 years old, and that's mean across the world, in at least the countries except in third world countries. They follow a pretty traditional pattern. Now, steroids are considered the standard of care, so corticosteroids are used on a daily basis or other regimens, and that prolongs ambulation. So some of these boys will walk until their early teens. They usually are off their feet by 12 or 13, and then their arms become limited in their later teens. They need help with breathing, and you saw in Propelled last night, Doug has his breathing machine on the back of that chair, which it really helps him to exchange air and blow off carbon dioxide, because he's not strong enough to do that. And now the mean age of death in the United States is around 35.
That's still so young.
It's still so young, but you've extended their life by 10, 15 years.
I was saying 10 years, but you've extended it by 15 now.
Yes.
That's amazing. I want to get back to when you say is it the shock absorber in the muscles, is it? The shock absorber?
Yes. So muscles made up of a lot of things, but specifically there are proteins that really look at the membrane of the muscle and hold it together and keep its integrity. And this is the lack of dystrophin, which is the responsible gene or the responsible protein found missing in Duchenne, acts as a shock absorber. So it lays right under the cell membrane, the sarcolemma, and it's a stabilizing force. So the more you move those muscles, the more damage you do to the muscle, because that shock absorber isn't in place. So there's a lot of other functions that this particular protein does, but the primary function is the shock absorber. And without that, muscle can't survive. So it just rips itself in pieces, and so when you have holes in the membrane, then the external environment comes in and basically makes the muscle cell lose decay.
In the research you've done since 1984, is there any sign of a cure?
Well, cure is a really big word, so I don't like to think about it in terms of cure, because if I say that word cure, I want to be able to I would hope that the
to be a legitimate cure.
It would have to be legitimate. So when we think of cure right now, we would have to do newborn screening and intervene then if we had some therapy that would be curative. But I think that what we know now is this disease is well characterized. So we know what protein's missing. We know that there might be alternate proteins that we could upregulate. We know the pathophysiology of what happens because this dystrophin is missing and what happens in the cellular sort of pathology, the cascade that occurs. So there's a pipeline full of drugs that target all sorts of aspects of this disease. So my sense of this is boys in this next generation are going to walk longer, maybe into their 20s. I think they will live longer, maybe into their 50s. And so I think as we in medicine push these barriers out, I'm hoping that we'll have a generation that walk well into adulthood and live full lives. So I think we will have treatments. I think it will be a combination of therapies that fully treat the disease and end Duchenne. But in general, I think we're getting there.
That is just amazing. You know, it really is one of the great unknown diseases.
It is one of the great unknown diseases, but if you think about what the implications are, muscle in aging, the aging population really declines as well. So the things we learn here are going to be applied broadly. These boys' hearts are unstable, so the things we learn there are going to be broadly applicable. So I think Duchenne should be a worldwide awareness campaign because I think our boys need and deserve that campaign and need and deserve the help. But I think the broad implications for the larger society are there, and we should recognize it.
Oh, look, beautifully said.
Yes.
I'm just going to hark back very briefly to the premiere of the play Propelled last night.
Mm-hmm.
It was heart-wrenching. It was inside anybody who's ever had to be in a wheelchair, how the obstacles that you and I, all of us in this room, walk by without any problem.
Well, we just take the drugs.
What's it like to be on a wheel? It is just impossible. And in that, you were just talking about Doug being on a breathing machine. What's one of his greatest fears? The machine will stop while he's asleep.
Yeah.
That was brought out. I mean, it was an eye-opening. It was thoroughly engrossing. But it was eye-opening. It was innovative. And I'm not a great person for plays.
No.
But I would honestly recommend everybody to go and see that because it covers so many facets of people who are in wheelchairs, people who are, you know, you and I think we've got problems. Put it aside. It was just fantastic, and I really want to plug that this year Nares County Sheriff is proud to be partnering with Duchenne, and it's just amazing the work you do.
Well, thank you. I recommend highly Propelled. I was so blown away by what Doug, the actor, not the boy with Duchenne, but the actor could accomplish in this play. I think he did discuss all of the issues that are around not being able to move and be independent, and at the same time, this compliments his entire family for the support they give him, but also he kept saying, get on with it. Let's just get on with it. So he saw barriers as something to get around and get over and ignore. And so I think for all of us, you know, we see barriers in our life and some of us just stop dead in our tracks and say, well, that's the end of it, the end of my dream. But for Doug, it's the beginning, and he ended this by saying, my story's just beginning, and I hope he is. I'd love to see this in the United States. I'd love to see this around the world. It is exactly the message that we should send, and he's a brilliant, really brilliant actor, and it's just an honor to be with him.
Fantastic. I mean, as Dale said, until Operation Rudolph was on, I didn't even know Duchenne existed. I never heard of it before. And it's just, and I just think it's something we need to get out there. And I mean, obviously since 1984 things have changed dramatically, and we can only get better. And I only came on the tail end because I was having a bit of a coffee spat down on this.
Not having a good time.
You know, well, I'm on these high blood pressure tablets, and you've got two alternatives. One of them, you take one, the good people. The one I'm on at the moment makes you cough. And it's not a good one. Here's a dry cough. You're familiar with it, aren't you? Yeah, you have to switch them out. So I've got onto the new ones now, but they do make
Steve could try for a free diagnosis.
Well, I went to the doctor yesterday, and I was talking about her earlier on, and she's a wonderful doctor. And I was flirting with her. That's all I mean. With your doctor.
Can I just quickly make sure, Steve, this was the female doctor you were flirting with, because you have been known to...
Yes, was the female doctor. Pat, look, it's so enlightening, and so you're so positive, and to have lost such two beautiful boys in your life, you know, and I mean, they're going to be in the room, but they've driven you to just be a champion for the cause of Duchenne, and it's just wonderful, and I just what do I say, really, how can we do more? What can we do to do more? I mean, you've outlined a lot of things that we can do, but we've just got to get that message out there, haven't we?
I agree. Operation Rudolph is incredible. I was asking Dale, how is it when all of these emergency vehicles come down with their sirens on that you convince people that you're not being invaded and that, in fact, you're doing something amazing and wonderful, and it is incredibly wonderful. And you're just the people who can really resound with this message. It's such an important one.
Pat, it's lovely to talk to you, Dales, unless you've got anything else.
I do. It's 3 plugs for Dales today.
Yeah, go for it.
This time next Saturday, thank you very much to the crew at Angsana Resort. We've got their refurbishment material, and that's currently sitting in one of the trucks at Grace.
Yes.
And next Saturday, Campus Shopping Centre will be having the garage sale. Now, the money from the garage sale is going to go towards fundraising for Duchenne. What we're going to do is we're going to look at holding one of those, a few functions through the year. We were going to hold one more, but we thought, no, we only get one bite of the cherry with that. So we're going to go back to the 70s and back to the 80s, because where can you and I go? We grew up on that music. Imagine going back to the 70s or 80s and having a night of film clips and great music. 70s.
Don't remember that era.
No, you were doing something else with things then, but yeah, you were there.
I was there.
You don't remember it, but no, that's what we're looking at. So, thanks to Angsana, they've given us a lot of their refurbishment gear, a whole truck full. Now these include satin wall art. Beautiful. I mean, Angsana's a magnificent resort.
Oh, I know.
So we've got a lot of their soft furnishings there for sale next Saturday. Campus Shopping Centre. Now, I believe the lovely Fiona is going to be helping us promote that during the week.
That'll be great.
And we are looking at probably talking to you again next Saturday.
Yes, we will be.
And we're hopefully going to be set up by 6 o'clock on Saturday morning in the new centre, which is the big car park where Operation Rudolph goes, at Campus Shopping Centre. And the guys there are putting on a sausage sizzle for us.
Fantastic.
We'll have breakfast.
Yep.
But it's some beautiful items, and they will be going out at good prices. So that money will go towards fundraising towards our dancers for Duchenne Foundation. And if anybody wants to give to Duchenne, give you a call and you can pass on the details.
Absolutely. Now, there's another gentleman I just want to make mention of, and that's Dave.
Yes.
Pat, there's a gentleman here that jumps on board with any charity that we try to promote, be it on the radio or just out there physically. And his name's Dave, and he just did a fabulous job to raise money for Duchenne. He made over $1,000. $2,013 just to go to the Duchenne. This is one man, and he's just a champion. Now, he's doing it again today, and he's selling some other stuff. I don't know what he was selling.
Musical fans, he showed.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
And that is last night. He's terrific.
Yeah, he's a character, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's got the bullet around his, and he's got all the whistles on all the jewellery, and he's just a champion. And I just want to make mention today because he's a solo man that got behind it and raised that money. And thank you, Dave. He rang me earlier on and he's doing something for the Leukemia Foundation now. He's always on board with something. So I just want to make mention of it. But Pat, it's lovely to talk to you. I'd love to chat to you again down the line. Be it whether it doesn't matter what part of the world that you're in. I'd love to get your email and through Dales. In the future, just to keep a track on what's going on. We can do a live interview with you overseas. It doesn't matter what time of the day or morning. We can just do something. I'd love to.
You know what I think we should do, don't you?
What's that?
We should actually issue a warrant for
her arrest.
For her arrest. A warrant to bring her back for Operation Rudolph.
I think it'd be great.
Because that will be Duchenne this year again.
Okay.
We'll be doing that. We could even try and raise some funds in there and try and get her over here and put you on that, the big fire engine anyway. It's a lot of noise but it's a lot of fun.
This would be wonderful.
All right.
Really great.
And we are working on getting you out with us this year.
Well, put the cat and I in that front seat there. You can blow the whistle and I'll do the talking and we can have a bit of fun doing that. Pat, lovely to chat to you. We have run out of time, guys. Good luck with your cause.
Thank you so much.
You're just a remarkable woman to go. You've been to hell and back. And now you're back now. And that's the most positive thing. So lovely to meet you. It's an honour. Dale, some final word?
I thought you were going to say it was an honour to meet me too, Steve. But Saturday, Campus Shopping Centre will be open from 6. And, I've got to tell you, the Sallies, Ali the Sally, is coming out to help us again, and they're helping us raise some money for Duchenne. They're a lovely bunch, aren't they?
They are a lovely bunch.
And, thank you too, because I was talking to her during the week, and because of what we were mentioning last week on the charity roundup, believe it or not, the amount of vandalism and looting has gone down rather drastically.
Yeah, hasn't it? Fantastic. Great stuff.
You know,
Good work.
it goes to show the power of the mighty 4CA all the way.
You're a good man. All right, time to go now. This is Sports DA. Thank you, guys. We'll do it again next week.